It's sort of a marathon when something like this happens, because you're wanted in a lot of places and you can't get to all those places at once. So you end up playing these festivals and shows over a long period of time, and it sort of feels like a treadmill sometimes. You know how the difference between a treadmill and going for a run where there's this start and this finish? You just keep running. You don't know, it doesn't feel like you're necessarily making that much forward progress, because it seems like you guys already know this, right? You know, but because you do it every night. So you have to battle that sort of inevitable, you know, disconnect with material after you've been playing it. We've been playing this for like 3.5 years.
Yeah.
So when you add in the time before, maybe 4, when you added the time before we put out the record, and we were playing these songs, you know, they were telling us to wait. So yeah.
All the bands get that on the first record. You gotta wait, you can't put it out just yet. So now I hear you guys have a studio on the road with you.
Yeah.
So that must change the treadmill a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it allows
some
you
creativity
to feel,
to it.
Yeah, I think there's a concern of atrophy from the songwriting perspective. You know, it's like a muscle that's, like their cast came off, and now it's just totally like a tiny little shriveled muscle. And so we want to just start building that back into the everyday routine, because it's kind of how we got here, was just persistent, you know, crafting these songs. It wasn't so much immediate, some brilliance or something. It was over time, just carving the stone or massaging the idea over and over. You know?
So the tunes that are going to be on the deluxe edition, also songs from back in the day that took a while to create?
Yeah, I mean, Eloise is one of them, Darlene. Those are 2 of the originals. And those were songs that didn't make the album, but were songs that we really felt strongly about. There just wasn't necessarily a good place for them on a record initially.
But you've been playing them live? They've been fitting to the sets?
Yeah. Darlene, I would say, and then Eloise more recently has been tied into almost every show, which is nice. And then Ain't Nobody's Problem is a friend of ours, Sawmill Joe. He works at a sawmill. He cut off one of his fingers, actually, not too long ago, accidentally. And but he's great musician. And we did this thing called Denver Does Denver, where you cover another musician in the area. And then
cool
people hopefully cover your music. You'll see. That time nobody did, but we covered his, and we said, "Oh, that sounds pretty cool." So we tried with the whole band, and we've played it ever since. So we eventually we cut a version of it in a studio out in LA. Actually, Sound City, that place where Dave Grohl.
Yeah, the film.
We did it there, and
so did you use the Neve console? Is it still there? Or did you take it home with
We were using a console that was it was where like Blonde on Blonde was recorded and stuff.
That's equally
restored.
Cool. Yeah.
I think that studio has sort of changed a little bit over time, but yeah, it was still there was something about that room, you know, really,
since
really special.
You mentioned Dylan, you covered Subterranean Homesick Blues in New York the other night. I heard. What? It's a stupid question. I'm going to ask it anyway. What about Dylan's songwriting influenced you or affected you?
Yeah, well, I think his imagery is incredible. I think his knack for... I still don't know how to do this thing where he... Like Shelter from the Storm, where he always ends up saying the same line at the end of a phrase, you know? At the end of a long phrase. But I think he's just... he's got so many memorable lines and amazing lyrics. He kind of mixed everything together. Like some artists are probably more weighted on... They're really good with, you know, the lyric aspect, and some are good at melody. And he kind of found both. Even though he dressed it up in this really raspy, people were turned off, some people, by his voice, but I think he's the total package when it comes to that. So it's an obvious influence on a lot of people who start out as singer-songwriters, as I did.
You did, eh?
Yeah.
That's when you in coffee shops with just an acoustic kind of thing?
Yeah, for sure. Being in a band was not part of the plan or anything. It was just it was frustrating trying to get together with people, because inevitably musicians flake on, you know,
really?
On practices, or they're never on time, or, you know, they have another gig or something. So it was a lot more enjoyable to be self-reliant. But then you start to realize, oh, well, we can do a lot with this, you know, with this sound if you guys show up. So it became a big thing to try to have those dynamics there once we started working with like more than just a drummer. That's why I started with just a drummer and then moved from there. But no, I was pretty frustrated with that unreliability aspect, so it turned me off for a while, and then I found really good people. So now
I was gonna say you have a good group now.
Yeah, and they found me and Jer, so kudos to them too.
Back to the writing on the road thing, just 'cause I'm curious. How has that been? Because I assume that's a new thing for you.
It's brand new.
Yeah.
I think I heard this one songwriter say that she preferred to write at midnight in the dark. Some weird.
Oh, Beth Thornton told me that once, actually.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It was somebody. It wasn't her, but for me. But my thing is, it's very private, and if I sense that someone's around, it's very difficult to get in that headspace. So it sort of has to just kind of happen, and so it's a little bit harder to manufacture out on the road. It's easier to do in the privacy of a home or something like that. We did most of our writing, Jared and I, around each other in proximity, but never sitting down going, let's work on this together, generally. Mm-hmm. Most of it was, he'd be in the other room, and I'd say, what is that? And it was the Charlie Boy riff, or but things would happen back and forth. What was that line, kind of thing. And so it's very strange, it's a hard thing to reproduce, but I think it's sort of like, you can get good at anything, or at least improve on it if you do it a lot. So we're just trying to, we realize the reality is we're on the road for a long time. So you might as well at least try to do this well on the road, because then you can be good at a few things, instead of just compartmentalizing it all to, you get home and you're supposed to flick a switch. Now I'm gonna start writing music again,
Although home might be a long ways away. I mean, I saw you guys at South by 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, whenever that was, and yeah. I feel like since then it's been nonstop. Like you've lived life on the road for the past year and a half.
Sure, yeah.
And that's a very big change from going from where you were to where you are now. Yeah. Have you enjoyed life on the road, or has it been harder than you expected it to be?
I enjoy it a lot more than I thought I ever would. I was basically worried that I wouldn't enjoy it, but that I wanted this dream that inevitably it's like a dog chasing a car. Once I got there, I would be unhappy with, or just not know what to do with it. I ended up realizing I really like it, because I'm kind of a homebody, but it's weird, you kind of make yourself a home on the road. So I'm kind of, what's the word? Not reclusive, but
you said in one interview, creature of comfort. What you said at some point.
Yeah, maybe. I just like alone time, and that's hard to find when you're starting out as a band. But now it's much easier for me to find. It used to be we're all in a minivan together, and we're all looking out the windows and staring at each other's faces and listening to the same music together. It's hard to get away. Now it's actually an easier experience for me, because we have a green room, or we have more than one of those and things like that. So it kind of plays into my personality well, oddly enough. And so for me, it's gotten easier. It's just, the hard part is usually on your family and your partners, because they're sort of the ones being left, or they're coming out to visit, and you're always stimulated. You're always going to a new city and doing exciting things. So
talking about things moving up, the documentary that's on this the deluxe edition that comes out in a few weeks. Being in the middle of the hurricane, the eye of the hurricane, you probably don't notice things happening. So what was it like for you watching those 15 minutes, if you have seen them?
I saw them. It was cool. It reminded me of a younger me, even though it wasn't that long ago, You just see so much, and my voice was very hoarse. So it was interesting to remember that week, or whenever the interview was given, at each part of the documentary. But yeah, I like to look back, but it's a hard time to do that right now. You know what I mean? It's sort of like we're in the thick of it still, so
yeah.
Can't get too sentimental,
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. 5 quick questions. I'll give you back to your alone time. 5 quick questions, 1 word answers.
Sure.
Road or studio?
Studio.
Lennon or McCartney?
Lennon.
When you hear a song, what usually hits you first? Lyrics, melody, or rhythm?
Lyrics.
If someone's never heard the Lumineers, what song do they start with?
Pick anyone. That's a 2-word answer. Anyone.
In 1 word, the Lumineers.
Lumineers. I got nothing, man.
That's good.